Ever feel like you're living someone else's life? Like you're just going through the motions?
Totally. It's like we're following this invisible rule book,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And Vishen Lakhiani actually calls that the culture scape in his book, The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. He says it's full of these like expectations and beliefs that we just kind of inherit.
And we don't even realize they're shaping our lives.
Yeah.
It's like we're not even in the driver's seat.
And the worst part is they can really hold us back from like living a life that's truly our own, you know?
Totally. But the good news is, Locani gives us these tools, almost like a roadmap to break free.
Yeah.
It's like he's saying, okay, here's how to rewrite the script and design a life that actually lights you up.
Okay, I love that. Rewrite the script. So it's not just about like breaking the rules for the sake of it.
Not at all. He's big on having a framework, a system. It's almost like he's debugging a computer program.
Okay, I love that analogy. It's
Yeah,
like he's helping us reprogram our own minds.
exactly. And one of the first things he wants us to do is identify these things he calls Brules.
Brules.
Yeah. They're like these outdated beliefs, these old rules we've picked up along the way. Like, think about it. How many times have you told yourself, I should be doing this, or I can't do that?
Oh my gosh, all the time. Like way more than I'd like to admit. It's like these thoughts just pop into your head out of nowhere.
Exactly. And often, we don't even realize we're letting these rules run the show. He gives this great example about careers. You know that whole thing about climbing the corporate ladder?
Yeah.
He's like, what if your path doesn't look like that? What if success for you means zigzagging, taking detours, trying a bunch of different things?
It's so true. We put so much pressure on ourselves to follow this like one size fits all path to success.
Exactly. But what if we question that? What if we redefine success on our own terms?
That's where things get really interesting. He talks about this study with hotel maids, right?
Oh, yeah. The one where they told the maids that their work was actually good exercise.
Yes. And then, get this, their health markers, like, actually improved.
Just from believing it.
It just shows you the power of our minds.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
like if we can shift our perspective, we can shift our reality.
Okay, that's a pretty powerful concept. So, where do we start? How do we actually, like, hack the culturescape and start rewriting those old limiting beliefs?
Well, he says we're kind of taught to think a certain way by society, right?
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things missing is taking time for ourselves, for quiet reflection.
Yeah, it's like we're always on constantly bombarded with information and stimulation.
Exactly. And that's actually why he went to the Amazon, right? To learn from the Akor tribe.
Yeah.
They have this daily ritual, a morning tea ceremony, where they share their dreams, their experiences, their thoughts. It's a time for connection and reflection.
Wow, that's such a contrast to how most of us start our days scrolling through social media, rushing to work.
Right. But what if we incorporated some of these conscious practices into our own lives? Even just a few minutes of meditation, journaling, or spending time in nature.
Okay, yeah, just like hitting the pause button for a minute and being more intentional.
Exactly. And Lakhiani calls this consciousness engineering. He says it's about like taking control of the software of our minds.
So how do we actually do that? Where do we even begin?
He suggests starting with an exercise he calls the 12 areas of balance.
12 areas? Okay, that sounds kind of intense. What are they?
Well, he basically wants us to look at all the different parts of our lives, love, career, health, spirituality, you name it, and see if our current beliefs and habits are helping or holding us back.
So it's like a life audit, identifying those areas where our software might need an upgrade.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And the best part is it's totally personalized. What works for one person might not work for another. It's all about figuring out what works for you.
That makes sense. But he gives us some guidance, right? Like specific questions we can ask ourselves about each area.
Absolutely. He walks you through each area with prompts and examples. It's all about getting really honest with yourself, identifying those subconscious beliefs and habits that might be holding you back.
Like those pesky, I'm not good enough or I don't deserve success thoughts.
Exactly. He dives deep into how childhood experiences can shape our self-perception, even if we're not consciously aware of it.
It's like our brains are these meaning-making machines, always trying to make sense of the world. And sometimes we create meaning from experiences that might not even be true.
Right. Like, he talks about this study where they gave people milkshakes.
Okay, I love milkshakes. Tell me more.
Well, they told one group the milkshake was this super decadent treat loaded with calories. And they told the other group it was a healthy, low-calorie option.
Okay, so same milkshake, different descriptions.
Exactly. And guess what? The group who thought they were drinking the decadent shake had a totally different hormonal response. their bodies actually reacted as if they were consuming more calories.
Wow, just from believing it. That's wild. So, if our beliefs can literally change our bodies, how do we start to rewrite those old, unhelpful narratives? Especially the ones that feel so ingrained.
That's the thing, right? It's about recognizing which beliefs we've inherited or just picked up along the way and choosing to keep the ones that serve us.
Oh, I like that. It's like cleaning out your mental closet, getting rid of the stuff that's no longer serving you.
Exactly. And it's super important for parents, too. Being mindful of the messages we send to kids, even subtly.
Oh, yeah, totally. Like, instead of saying, you were bad, we can try saying, hey, what happened? What could we do differently next time?
Right. It's about focusing on effort and learning, rather than labeling their actions as good or bad.
So it's not about shielding kids from failure, but teaching them how to navigate challenges in a healthy way.
Exactly. And that's something we can all benefit from, learning how to reframe those failures as opportunities for growth.
Speaking of growth, Lakhiani talks about the importance of upgrading our daily habits, what he calls our systems for living.
Oh, yeah. He uses this great metaphor, comparing it to updating the operating system on your phone or computer.
Oh, right, like we wouldn't even think of using an outdated operating system. So why are we so resistant to upgrading our habits?
Exactly. And he outlines this three-step process for doing just that. First up, discovery.
Discovery. Okay, what does that mean in this context?
So it's about identifying the most effective habits and systems that are already working for other people. He uses this example of his friend, Patrick Grove.
Wait, who is Patrick Grove again?
He's this incredibly successful entrepreneur known for taking multiple companies public.
Hmm.
And his secret: he's obsessed with identifying the most successful systems used by other people. And then he adapts them for his own businesses. He even calls it stealing with integrity.
I love that. Stealing with integrity. So it's like being a student of life, constantly learning and growing.
Exactly. And surrounding yourself with people who inspire you.
Okay, so we discover new systems. What's next?
The experimentation phase.
Experimentation. Okay.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Lakhiani's all about treating life like a laboratory, testing out different approaches, seeing what sticks, and gathering data.
Oh, interesting. So we're like scientists in our own lives.
Exactly. And he emphasizes that failure is a crucial part of this process. It's how we learn and refine our approach.
It's like Thomas Edison famously said, I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work.
Exactly. And Lakhiani's a big proponent of tracking your progress, too.
Oh, interesting. How do you suggest doing that?
However works best for you. It could be journaling, using a fitness tracker, even just a simple spreadsheet.
So we're like gathering data on ourselves.
Yes, it helps you become more aware of your patterns, what's moving you closer to your goals, and what's holding you back. And once you've experimented and gathered data, you move on to the optimization phase.
Optimization. Okay, so we're fine-tuning those systems to make them even more effective.
Exactly. And one way he recommends doing that is by setting what he calls non-negotiable set points.
Non-negotiable set points? Okay, I've never heard that term before. What does it mean?
Basically, they're those minimum standards you refuse to compromise on.
Yeah.
Like Lakhiani has this rule about always being able to do 50 push-ups.
50. Wow. Okay, so it's about having those non-negotiables that keep you on track and aligned with your goals.
Precisely. And he actually provides a list of potential set points for each of the 12 areas of balance, which can be super helpful.
Oh, that's awesome. I love how he brings it back to those 12 areas. It's like everything's connected. But it's not all about productivity and efficiency, right? He also talks about the importance of experiencing joy.
Absolutely. He wants us to ask ourselves, what truly brings me joy? And then, how can I incorporate more of that into my daily life?
Yeah. It's so easy to get caught up in the hustle and forget to enjoy the journey. He talks about Ariana Huffington, right?
Yeah. She prioritizes meditation and gratitude every morning before even looking at her phone.
That's such a good reminder to like start the day on the right foot, not just dive straight into work and stress.
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot between crushing your goals and actually enjoying the process.
So it's about balance, right? Finding that balance between all the different areas of our lives.
Exactly.
Well, this has been amazing. So much to think about.
And these systems,
Yeah.
not just for our personal lives.
You mean like how he applied those principles at Mind Valley?
Yeah. At his company, he decided to really prioritize his employees' well-being, you know?
And didn't it actually end up making the company more successful?
Exactly. It's like that whole grind culture thing is like totally backwards.
Right. What if like we can achieve amazing things and actually enjoy ourselves in the process?
And it's not just some feel-good philosophy. He actually,
There's research behind it.
yeah, studies showing that happiness can seriously boost job performance.
Oh, yeah. Didn't he mention something about a study with doctors and candy?
Oh, yeah. The doctors who got candy before diagnosing patients were like way faster and more accurate.
It's crazy how much a little mood boost can impact our, like, thinking abilities, you know?
Totally. And that ties into what he calls blisscipline, which sounds kind of intense.
Discipline, what is that exactly?
It's not about being like happy all the time. It's more about cultivating a positive kind of baseline for yourself.
Okay, that makes sense. So how do we do that?
Well, he breaks blisscipline down into three main things: gratitude, forgiveness, and giving.
Okay, so let's start with gratitude. That's a big one for him, right?
Huge. He talks about this thing called the reverse gap.
The reverse gap. Okay, I'm not familiar with that one.
So we're always focused on what we're still striving for, right? Like the forward gap,
Yeah.
all the things we haven't achieved yet.
Yeah, and that can be like kind of a recipe for unhappiness if you're not careful.
Totally. But the reverse gap is all about shifting that focus to what we're grateful for right now.
Okay, so it's like taking a step back and appreciating how far you've already come.
Exactly. And it's not just about making a mental list. He wants us to really feel that gratitude.
Yeah, to really savor it. I tried that gratitude journal thing for a while, and it was actually kind of amazing how much it shifted my perspective. Even on those tough days, I could always find something to be grateful for.
It's amazing how powerful those small shifts in perspective can be, right?
Totally. Okay, so we've got gratitude. What about forgiveness? How does that fit into all of this?
So forgiveness is like key to letting go of those things that are weighing us down, like
Yeah.
those grudges we hold.
Yeah, it's like we're carrying around all that baggage from the past. It can be so heavy.
And the crazy thing is, it can actually impact our physical health too.
Oh, wow. Really? I didn't realize it was that deep.
Yeah, there were actually studies linking forgiveness to things like reduced back pain and even improved heart health.
Wow. Okay. I'm starting to see the connection. So forgiveness is more about us than the other person.
Exactly. It's about freeing ourselves from those negative emotions. It's not about condoning what happened.
It's about choosing to move on, to write a different story.
Exactly. Okay, and then the last piece of discipline is giving. And this one is really cool because he actually did an experiment with it at Mind Valley called Love Week.
Oh, yeah, the Love Week thing. I love that story. Tell me more about that.
So basically, for a whole week, employees were secretly giving each other gifts and doing acts of kindness for each other.
And I bet it created this amazing ripple effect of positivity, right?
Totally. And get this, it didn't just boost happiness and morale, it also led to this surge in productivity.
See, kindness is powerful. It's like that saying, it's better to give than to receive. But it turns out giving kind of makes everyone feel like they're receiving.
Totally, it's a win-win. And it all ties back to that idea of interconnectedness, right?
Oh, totally. And speaking of interconnectedness, how does this all relate back to bending reality? I'll admit, when I first heard that phrase, I was like, okay, is this some kind of Jedi mind trick?
I know, it sounds kind of out there. But the way he explains it, it actually makes a lot of sense. It's not about, like, controlling the universe with our minds. It's more about creating this internal state of happiness.
So we're aligned with what we want, and then that makes it easier to actually achieve those things.
Exactly. Like you're putting yourself in the best possible position to receive those good things, you know?
It's like creating the right conditions for those dreams to blossom.
Yes. And he breaks it down into 4 different states of being:
Mhm.
suffering, struggling, coasting, and then finally bending reality.
Okay, so break those down for me. Let's start with suffering.
So suffering is basically being like unhappy with your present moment, feeling stuck.
Yeah, I think we've all been there at some point.
Totally. Then there's struggling, which is where a lot of people get caught up.
Struggling, like you're working towards something, but you're not really happy in the present moment.
Exactly. It's like, I'll be happy when I achieve this goal.
Okay, yeah, I've totally been there. So then we have coasting. What is coasting?
Coasting is like you're content with where you are, which is great, but you're also kind of lacking that fire, that drive to go after something more. And then finally, there's bending reality.
Okay, so bending reality, this is like the ultimate state where everything's clicking.
Exactly. It's that sweet spot where you're genuinely happy in the present moment, and you're also super clear on where you're headed in the future.
Okay, so how do we get there? How do we actually like step into that state of bending reality?
Well, it goes back to those 3 practices we were just talking about: gratitude, forgiveness, and giving.
Right, because those practices help us cultivate that baseline of happiness and alignment.
Exactly. And when we feel good, we attract good things into our lives.
It's like that saying, what you focus on expands, right?
Totally. And that brings us to goal setting.
Because once we're in that state of bending reality, we need to know what direction we want to bend it in, right?
Exactly. And that's where Lakhiani talks about the difference between means goals and end goals.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's the difference? Okay, so means goals versus end goals. I'm ready to dive into this. What's the difference and why does it even matter?
So think about means goals, like the things we go after because we think we're supposed to, you know?
Okay, like the fancy car, the big house, the corner office.
Exactly. Those external validation things, the stuff
Mhm.
that looks good on a vision board but might not actually fulfill us.
Because they're not really what we want deep down. We're just chasing after them because of societal pressure or whatever.
Totally. Like we think those things will make us happy, but Lakhiani's saying, hold on a second. Let's get real about what actually lights you up.
Okay, and that's where the end goals come in.
Exactly. End goals are all about those experiences that are like intrinsically fulfilling. They're not about impressing anyone else. They're just for you.
So how do we even begin to figure out what those end goals are? It feels kind of like big and existential, right?
He has this awesome question he asks. If time and money were no object, what experiences would your soul crave?
Okay, wow. That's a powerful question. Suddenly I'm imagining myself like backpacking across Southeast Asia or something,
Right.
or finally writing that novel I've always dreamed of.
See, it's about tapping into those things that make you feel truly alive, whether it's traveling, being creative, connecting with nature, whatever.
So it's not just about the things we want to do, but also who we want to be. Like, do we want to be more compassionate, more adventurous?
Exactly. And here's where it gets really interesting. He believes that true fulfillment, like real deep down happiness, comes from finding your calling.
Your calling. So it's not just about having a career, but about making a difference.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be this huge save the world kind of thing. It could be raising a kind family, being a supportive friend, volunteering in your community, anything that lights you up and makes the world a better place.
Okay, I love that. So how do we actually like figure out what our calling is? How do we tune into that?
Well, he talks about these two paths to growth, Kensho and Satori.
Kensho and Satori, those sound kind of intense. What are they exactly?
So Kensho is growth through like pain and challenges.
Okay, so those moments that force us to grow and evolve even when it's hard.
Exactly. Think about a time when you went through something really tough, maybe a breakup or a job loss, but you came out on the other side stronger and wiser.
I feel like those experiences really teach us what we're made of. Like we discover this inner strength we didn't even know we had.
Totally. And then there's Satori, which is more about growth through those like aha moments.
Moments like those sudden bursts of inspiration.
Yes, those flashes of insight that can change everything.
Like when you're reading a book and you're just like, oh my God, that's it. That's the missing piece I've been searching for.
Exactly. It could be somebody you read, a conversation, even just a random thought you have while you're out for a walk.
Okay, so it's about paying attention to those intuitive nudges, those whispers of wisdom. Yeah. Because they might be leading us toward our calling.
Exactly. And he tells this great story from Emily Fletcher, the meditation teacher. She talks about how, like, opportunities often present themselves as these intuitive downloads, but if we're not paying attention, we might miss them.
Oh, wow. It's like we have to be ready to, like, seize those opportunities when they show up. Okay, so let's say we're feeling all inspired. We're clear on our end goals. We're ready to step into our calling. How do we actually make it happen? How do we turn those big dreams into concrete action?
Well, Lakhiani shares this awesome exercise from his friend Martin Root that can help with that.
Okay, I'm ready. Hit me with it.
All right, so first, he wants you to think back to a time when you experienced, like, pure joy.
Like heaven on earth kind of joy.
Exactly. And once you're really feeling that memory, he asks, if you had a magic wand, what would your own personal heaven on earth look and feel like?
Okay, I love that. It's like giving yourself permission to dream big.
Right. And then to bring it all together, the final question is, what's one small step, something simple and doable that you can do in the next 24 hours to move closer to making that vision a reality?
So good. I love how he breaks it down into manageable steps.
Exactly. And he says to pay close attention to the emotions that come up as you're doing this exercise.
Because those emotions can guide us toward those things that really light us up, the things we're truly passionate about.
Exactly. And even when we know our calling, taking those first steps can feel scary.
Totally. What if we fail? What if we're not good enough?
He actually shares this great Napoleon Hill quote. If you're not sure what to do, just take a step. even a tiny baby step.
Because action creates momentum,
Right.
right?
Exactly. It's about showing the universe and ourselves that we're serious about creating a life that's aligned with our truest selves.
I love that. And Lakhiani leaves us with this powerful reminder. Your true greatness comes when you focus not on building a career, but on finding your quest.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the code of the extraordinary mind, I encourage you to ask yourself, what are those limiting beliefs holding you back? What small steps can you take today to start living a life that's aligned with your values and your vision?
This deep dive has been incredible. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
And remember, the journey to an extraordinary life starts with a single step. We'll see you next time.